off to whomever needs to do the analysis. Okay, so if I went fast, I apologize. I'm going to bounce all the way back to top level here. And I am going to open it up for questions now. And since I am in a display mode, maybe I should close the display mode and then we can go from there. Or if someone wants me to leave it open and then ask questions, whichever way it goes.
Okay.
So, questions.
Okay, so Commissioner King?
Okay, I'm going to stack up my questions. First of all, is the SSP budget having to cover the expense associated with working on this application? That's one question. The second question is, are we assuming that once this application is in place that the county is going to do a great deal of marketing so that this becomes a tool that lots of people use, like they know it's there and so they use it automatically? How do we get the word out about that? Because it's only effective if people are using it. That's it.
So can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
My headphones, I think, are about to die. I would say that is something we're trying to explore. So come May 25th, what we would like to propose is when we propose recommendations to the board. Can you hear me? Okay. When we propose recommendations to the board, we do plan on providing sort of a kind of pricing it out and what additional resources would be needed if we wanted to do those recommendations. So, and we wanted to just get your feedback. So it sounds like, Commissioner King, that a potential recommendation is if whatever system we put out that's public facing needs to have a marketing component to it as well. Yeah, it's something that we would incorporate into what our recommendations would be to the board.
Anything else, Commissioner King? Okay. Vice Chair Bruder.
Me again. It seems like I do this a lot. Thank you for the presentation. I got lost about 3 clicks into it because I am not computer savvy. I didn't learn how to do computers. I was in prison when all this started to happen. I have a hard time logging onto this to these meetings. It really is hard. So for me, from my standpoint, it seemed convoluted and hard to use. Seems like it would be a lot easier to call the non-emergency number at dispatch and have them type all that information in. But that's just me. I am also not the norm, and there's so many people way better than me at computers. I feel that any app that we have, any way of reporting to try and get them taken care of, is a good thing. I do believe that, as Commissioner King said, we definitely need to have some marketing, because even to find, on the county website, even to find the HSA, the information that you want through that, for me, it's really hard to navigate, to know where to go and what to look for. I don't call something the same things that computer calls something. So I'm looking under the wrong headings and I get lost, and then I hit this button and here I am trying to buy a car from Idaho. I don't know, how'd that happen, So the education, the awareness of how to use it and to make it as simple as possible, I think, is the best thing, because the last thing you want to do when you're on a hike or a run in the Poganips is to stop and spend 10 minutes trying to remember what was said 3 months ago on how to report this pile of syringes that's sitting next to the trail. You want to get on with your hike. So that's just my take on it. But again, any way to do this is a good way.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to chime in. I think it's a great idea. I literally have my phone in my hand constantly, so an app would be really cool. But I do know that this is simply for reporting, and like Rashawn was saying earlier, it's not like someone can just like come out like Ghostbusters and go pick up the syringe, right? Like it's more of a reporting thing, which would, I think, show, if it puts the little pin, like you were saying, on each location, that is going to be very informational for us, for the community. I'm assuming the community will be able to see also where all of this is, or would the reporting simply go to those at the community would see where all the pins are, where the hot spots are? That's great. And then, at sometimes my understanding is sometimes people can, or somebody will be deployed to go clean up if it's a bunch of syringes, but the expectation should not be for the public that if I report this, somebody's going to come get this right away. I mean, that probably needs to be made clear as well. So, but I think it's an awesome step in the right direction. So thank you for whoever, thank you, for doing that, and thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner King.
I'm sorry, one more comment about this. Since the people who are going to take this information are the cleanup committee, the people who are cleaning it up, I would want to know that this is a useful thing for them before we adopt it.
Okay. So just a quick, I kind of raced through this just to give you the sort of high level look at it. In terms of like ease of putting this out, we already have the app on phone, available for phones to download. And then to add the syringe to this would be about 1 hour's worth of work in terms of adding to this code, just as is, right? As the same functionality. And then if you'd like to customize it then it takes more time, right? So it would just be adding a few data points in our DB and it'll automatically appear here. And I think this will really serve to help get the information out, detail where information is, and I look forward to working with you all. And if I didn't introduce myself before, my name is Ayman from ISD. I'm the senior programmer on the application.
Great. Thank you, Ayman. I'm sorry I said your name incorrectly.
Oh, no worries. I didn't introduce myself. I jumped right in.
All right, great. Thank you. Commissioner Stern.
I believe in the strength of diversity in our social systems, our financial systems, you name it. And here with this one, I think if people are allowed the freedom to get on their phone, and let's face it, for a lot of people, the phone is an extension of their hand nowadays. If they want to click a few buttons and report that way, as well as a phone call, or as well as if they want to burn carbon and get in a car and drive somewhere and report that too, or mail in snail mail or an email, all the different ways we have to report litter, syringe litter, I think adds to diversity, where some people won't use one method, but they will use another. The county app is already up and going. It's very strong. It's robust. The Parks Department, the Public Works, and you name it, a whole host of other departments use this app, and it's already there. So by adding in just 1 hour of time to fold in syringe reporting, I think is a minimal investment, and it gives us more tools to get our job done.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? All right. All right, so the next one is number 6, difference between one-to-one exchange versus needs-based exchange. I'm really interested in this one.
All right, well, it's hopefully not that complicated once you get your
your mind wrapped around the concept. So there are, and I'll list off a few different kinds of exchanges. So dispensation schemes. So you have them ranging from unlimited need-based distribution. Now, ideally, someone is getting one clean syringe for every injection. One sterile clean syringe for every injection. And so an unlimited need-based distribution would be based on that participant reporting on how many syringes they need, whether they bring syringes into the exchange or not, and being able to dispense that given amount of syringes. And then you have unlimited one-for-one exchange plus a few additional syringes. And I'm sorry, let me back up. I'm going to list down as far as which dispensation method has the most desired effect on getting clean syringes into someone's hands who need them. All right. So number one is the unlimited needs-based distribution. Number two would be an unlimited one-for-one exchange plus a few additional syringes. So in essence, giving a few additional syringes to the participant as they come in, but not limiting the number of syringes that they are allowed to exchange. If they bring in 1,000 syringes and they want 1,000 syringes, you give them 1,000, and hey, do you need a few more in case, you know, whatever circumstance? Then it would be a per visit limit of a one-for-one plus a few additional syringes. So you're capping the amount that they're able to exchange, and then giving them some additional syringes as well. Next would be the unlimited one-for-one exchange, which you're not giving extras, but they have to bring something in order to get some. And then per visit limit of a one-for-one exchange. So again, you have a limit on the amount that they can bring in exchange. Again, hopefully I didn't, stumble too much, but you have on the one end of the spectrum an unlimited needs-based distribution. The person needs a clean syringe, they can get it whether they bring something in or not. And on the far end of it is a per visit limit on a one-for-one exchange. What we have in here in Santa Cruz would actually be closer to the per visit limit with a one-for-one exchange. Although we do allow a secondary exchange, but that's capped at two additional people that the participant can exchange for. So our cap is 300. At no point are we sending out more than 300 syringes, and at no point are we able to give more syringes than we collect. So do you have any additional questions regarding that, Commissioner Bruder?
Is that it? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounded like you said two different things.
Okay.
We're allowed, or a person is allowed to receive a maximum of 300 per visit per person per visit. That's including their 100 and then 200 for secondary. For up to two people. So a total of 300 they can walk out the door with.
Yeah, and forgive me if I stumble. It can be a little convoluted, So
that's the whole thing.
Maximum syringes that an individual exchanging for themselves can receive is 100, and that is only if they bring in 100. Okay, so we're at no point giving more syringes than we receive. All right, but an individual who is only exchanging for themselves cannot receive more than 100 syringes. If that individual is exchanging for themselves plus 1 or 2 people, no more than 2, then they can bring in syringes up to 300 and get a 1-for-1 back. If someone brings in 500 syringes and says, hey, I want to exchange for myself and my 4 housemates, then my reply is our policy is that you are only able to exchange for 2 other persons. So please leave those 500 syringes here. We will dispense of them. We will, that's what we're set up to do, but I'm only able to give you 300 back.
So right now, what you're saying that what we have is a direct 1-for-1 exchange.
Yes, with a caveat in that we allow secondary exchange and there is a cap. So it's not an unlimited 1-for-1.
Right. Not unlimited. Yeah. If I walk in with 132 syringes, 100 of them are mine and 32 are for my buddy Billy Bob, right? Then I can walk out with 132 syringes.
Correct.
Okay. So this adding the caveat is where it confuses me. So we're 1-for-1, period. It's limited, but it is a 1-for-1. Now, what if I walk in and say, I don't have any syringes?
If you walk in and say you do not have syringes, then we are not able to give you syringes, but we are able to refer you to the clinic, all right? If the clinic hours, and I'll use this evening for example, the exchange closed at 7 p.m. The clinic is not open at 7. It's not open at 6:30 to refer them to the clinic, unfortunately. So in those cases, it would be a referral to a pharmacy, or if it is a time when or a day when the Harm Reduction Coalition of Santa Cruz County is in operation, I can say you can attempt to contact the Harm Reduction Coalition of Santa Cruz County. I do give that information. Again, ideally, we're giving clean syringes to people who request them. And, just to speak from my heart and in truth, it pains me to not be able to give someone a syringe when they are requesting a clean syringe, because that is a step by them to come to the exchange and try to maintain a healthier lifestyle. It's a better solution than using one from a friend, or even using one that's already been used.
That's the very first step in harm reduction.
Yeah, and even if it's a syringe that they have used, these things dull, and the soft tissue damage is a real thing. So, it pains me, but, I understand we're dealing with 2 different problems here, the public health problem and then a litter reduction problem. And, I understand that. I do. And we are firm with not giving out syringes if participants do not come in with them, as much as it pains me and the staff who are approaching this with a harm reduction and health lens.
I appreciate that. As an XIV user, there's nothing worse than having to screw the used needle into your arm and then ripping out part of your vein when you pull it out. It's horrible. I am in no way against harm reduction or syringe exchange services. They probably saved my life. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to whittle down where all of these needles are coming from. If you your service does not give out a needle without somebody handing you one, then that means you should have an exact number of out as in. In a perfect world. Now, if you're collecting more than you're giving out, and the Harm Reduction Coalition is collecting more than they're giving out, where are all these extra needles coming from? Because I know you cannot convince me that 100 of these addicts out here are running to the pharmacy every 2 days with $100 to buy 1,000 needles. So where are these needles coming from? And I think part of the problem, and I've thought this all along, is how do you count the needles coming in? You don't actually individually count the needles. You look in a container and you estimate via picture and best guess with your experiences how many are in that certain shape or size sharps container that they bring you. Or you best guess with the weight of what is in a kiosk. I really, 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 really would like to be able to do a ride-along with the service that empties your kiosks and take a couple of pictures as they're pulling the bags out of the kiosks and then walk through them as they go through the procedure, that where they weigh it, where they separate it, where they count it, wherever they come up with this number that they give you that says we have X amount of needles. No, because something doesn't jive. I'm trying to figure out where all these extras are coming from, because I shouldn't have 780 needles in the garage right there behind me. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have them. Not if you're collecting more and they're collecting more and you're not giving out extras. Mm-hmm. I don't want to blame the wrong person. I don't want to pin it on the wrong person. I want to be able to go through the steps and see why we're coming up with these discrepant numbers. I'm sorry. I don't mean to come off sounding angry. I'm passionate about it. I'm upset about it. I'm not upset at you or anybody on this screen. I'm upset about the situation. I shouldn't have to be collecting needles every day if what you're doing is working. Sorry, I'm going to shut up for a minute.
So Rashawn, do you mind if I chime in for a moment? No, I don't have I don't have an answer specifically to Commissioner Bruder's question of where the needles are coming from. We can only speculate, really. We know where syringe access points are, but it's hard to say, where exactly people are getting syringes, if they're purchasing it, if they're getting it from a friend, or what have you. But to your question on, not to your question, to your concern on, there are syringes out there, and is our program working with that prong of syringe litter cleanup? One of the, so I'm just putting this out there just for context for the Advisory Commission to think about, is we as a program are required to be a fixed location. We have to be on site here at the Emmeline or Watsonville location. We know, based on our syringe evaluation study, our access and distribution study, that we're not the most accessible in terms of location. And people will get to us, and we have a lot of repeat participants, which shows that people are generally happy with the services that we provide, which is good. But one of the things that has been successful and modeled in other places is when you have a syringe program that can go out into the community, they can also do some cleanup while they're out there. So when they're going out, because what I hear anecdotally, and I absolutely believe that it's true, is that there are a lot of syringes, especially associated with homelessness and encampments, syringe litter, and then there's also just along like the waterways as well, and it's could be more of an incorporated piece of the program if we were doing more field-based services. So it's just something to consider. Right now we are locked to a fixed location in both North and South County, and there are benefits and drawbacks to that. But when it comes to syringe cleanup, that is something that we could include in our programming, but it would have to come with a staffing and funding request from the board. So.
Okay. Commissioner King?
Okay, I think I have several questions stacked up here. One of them, Jen, are you saying that we couldn't, for example, have a mobile home that traveled around the county and served as a syringe exchange facility? That's one question. The second question is, I am unaware if it's happening that the Harm Reduction Coalition is receiving syringes back. My impression is that they only give them out. Is that true or not true? That's it.
I'll defer to Rashawn on the Harm Reduction Coalition programming, and that just to emphasize that is a separate program from us, although we collaborate with them. But he can answer on that piece. To your first question of do we have the ability to have like a mobile syringe services unit? Per our directive, we are specified to be on campus at the Emmeline location and the Watsonville Health Center location. So the short answer is no. There is now. I'm going to provide some context to that. Another way that people can get syringes is through their healthcare provider. So there are mobile health units that that have. The point is to be accessible to hard to reach populations, and potentially someone could get syringes that way. It would be with a health consult, of course. So it is different than a syringe exchange. But the county syringe services program is directed to be a fixed location.
Regarding the Harm Reduction Coalition Santa Cruz County's practice, they are needs-based. So I cannot speak to their numbers because I'm not privy to them. And there's no mandate for them to publish those numbers at this point, to my knowledge. As far as how they practice their exchange, they do request that persons turn in syringes to them, but it's not a requirement. So their needles in, needles out, I do not know. But I do know that they do make an effort to collect syringes, and they use our kiosks to do some of their dumps when they do syringe litter abatement. Actually, ironically, I was checking on one of our kiosks, new ones at Felker Street, before it was up and running, and ran into one of their members who wanted to, deposit some 500 syringes in that kiosk, and was not able to. And they actually ended up just swinging by the exchange and depositing them there. But so I do know that they make an effort, but again, they are needs based, and so they do not require people to bring in syringes.
I had a question and now I forgot. Well, I appreciate what you've reported, Rashawn. So has something changed with the county exchange though? Because I seem to remember that it wasn't always one-to-one. There was a portion of time, right? Okay. And when did that change?
It was sometime in 2019. We had quite a few board directives during that year. I want to say we revised our policies and procedures around April of 2019.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm just a little concerned about the needs-based, and I know it's not your guys' issue anymore. Just as someone who's lived on both sides of enabling for the best part of my life, that there's there's all of us want to help those that are suffering, right? But sometimes in doing that, we end up prolonging suffering. So I'm a little iffy on the whole needs thing. And if somebody says I need 900 needles, are they getting them? And that is a.
So I know we're running short here on time, but I will say that there are all kinds of little nuances to needs-based versus one-for-one. I gave a convoluted little description, but for instance, a needs-based could be where a survey is done of a particular participant, and you can have on their participant code, okay, what is your frequency of use? And when they come into the exchange, whether they have syringes or not, then based on that survey, you give the person however money they need for a week. That's an example of a needs-based strategy. And then you could also say, all right, well, that's how you run it. And if they bring back their used syringes, then you give them 2 weeks worth. So in excess of what they bring in, and incentivize them bringing in used syringes. So there are different strategies, there are different approaches, but basically needs-based is if they need the syringes, then there you go. Because ultimately that is getting sterile syringes to the person who's using them, and all of the benefits of that. And of course, litter abatement, that's another aspect to try to solve. But as far as the basic public health approach, a clean syringe, sterile syringe in someone's hand who is going to use a syringe is the best approach.
Right. No, I fully support. I wouldn't be here if I didn't fully support clean syringes for people that are using them. I just wonder if when they're determining what someone's needs are, if they're asking them, if anybody's looking at wants versus needs, big difference. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Oh, Vice Chair Bruder.
You've probably got about $4 in that jar by now. So, Mr. Williams, you brought up a scenario earlier about an HRC worker, volunteer, that was wanting to deposit approximately 500 syringes in the kiosk on Felker Street, but was unable to because you were servicing it, attending it, whichever. Now, if they're using the kiosks to drop off large amounts of return syringes, which is great. If they're getting large amounts, that's awesome. Now, it seems like there's pretty high odds that we're getting a double count here. The HRC says, oh, hey, we picked up 500 syringes today. And then they take them and they deposit them in the kiosk. And then 3 days later, the kiosk gets serviced. And those 500 syringes also get counted in your count of return syringes. That might be a potential source of the discrepancy in numbers of in and out. That's why I really want to be able to take part in a ride along of how these kiosks are serviced, and how that is all handled, so that we can see that the numbers that you're saying are returned are as accurate as absolutely possible. How many soda bottles are in the bag, or that kind of thing. I think that we just found a source of a little bit of the issue.
So, and that was an anecdote, and I apologize if I misspoke or it was misunderstood. That was collection from litter abatement efforts, from what I understand in that conversation. So that was, and again, I'm not positive on how they do all their reporting. I'm not at this point. But I'm not sure if that would be a cause for a double count, because that's litter abatement as opposed to a one of their participants turning it in. And again, it is just a weird coinky dink. It was right before that Felker Street kiosk went up. I'd talked to one of their members about how we were, getting the kiosk up, and it'll be running again or running shortly. But we were, I think, like 2 days away from solving it. So, but yeah, that specific incident was litter abatement as opposed to collections from one of their exchanges, per my short conversation with them.
Oh, okay, that's fine. But again, as litter abatement, so who counted that? Because Parks and Recs counts, sheriff's counts, Santa Cruz PD counts. All these different agencies count the needles that they pick up, and they all end up somewhere. I know that the SCPD uses a different collection service than Emmeline does. They, their needles don't end up in your bucket, so to speak. But if somebody's cleaning up, and say there's a river cleanup that's sponsored by Stewards of the Levee or whatever, and they say, yep, we picked up 218 needles today between Felker Street and Water Street along the levee. All right, we picked up 218 needles. So that number got recorded by them. And then if it gets put in your bucket, at one of the kiosks, well, then that number is now, it turned into 436 needles collected, because you don't know that number's already been collected, or already been recorded somewhere. So you're having stacked information, duplicate information, seemingly.
So I'd like to chime in here of the item number 4 of the direction for us to come back to the board with a recommendation for a consolidated process for reporting syringe litter. It is sort of getting to your questions, Commissioner Bruder, on figuring out, like, there's all these different sources, and how do we actually interpret that as a community? We can interpret the county's data, we can see Santa Cruz PD, Parks and Rec, but how do we actually see that together as a whole? So that, that's part of what we're trying to develop a recommendation on. And actually your questions are really helpful for this assessment.
I appreciate that you find them helpful rather than attacking, because sometimes it feels like I'm attacking and I don't mean to be. Oh, I know that you all are doing the best job that you possibly can in a really, really, really tough situation. So we appreciate you.
I'd like to echo what Vice Chair Bruder just said. I really, really, really appreciate all your efforts, and I'm learning so much. So thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments on that? No? Okay, next. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner King.
I again, speaking from the perspective of just a community member, never mind the fact that I'm sitting on this phone call with you, the SSP, the operation of the SSP seems like it is so almost, the word convoluted is coming to mind, because you, as an agency, we're being judged based on activities of lots of other people and not just the activity of the SSP. And I'm feeling real frustrated about that. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes, knowing that that's what's going on. The what ends up in the kiosk has little, if anything, to do with SSP. It has to do with the total collection of syringes from across the county that can come from who knows where. They can come from Canada, for all we know. So it doesn't turn out to be a good measure of success of the SSP, because you can't, the SSP needles aren't a different color. We can't really identify which ones are ours. We can't begin to identify how many the Harm Reduction Coalition is giving out, and I think I'm just expressing my frustration at what it is like for the SSP to try to operate a successful program under the shadow of what feels like all of this other strange stuff over which we have no control. That's just my opinion about that. But I think we should keep reminding people like the board about that. SSP on its own is serving a function and has purpose and is trying hard to serve its purpose. I mean, our purpose is to try to keep people from becoming infected with HIV, AIDS, and Hep C, and we're working toward that. But I'm frustrated that we're getting bogged down in a subject like litter, over which we have so little control. That's just my opinion. I'm frustrated by it all. I'm frustrated by the fact that HRC is doling out syringes without, from my community perspective, from my civilian perspective, without accountability and without being able to help shuffle those clients a step, even a baby step, closer to treatment. I'm sorry that is not something that is required from them. I'm frustrated by that. And Damon, when you're talking about where are all these syringes coming from, to me, in my very limited knowledge base, it feels like kind of a no-brainer. It's that, So I'm just frustrated. I just want you to know that I see how easy it becomes to sidetrack the mission of SSP by this litter question over which we have so little influence. That's it.
Thank you.
One quick reply to that. Thank you, Commissioner King. What I'm trying to do is eliminate the negative. I want to prove the SSP is doing the best that they can, that all of that they're really towing the line, and that they're not the culprits or to blame for everything that's happening. They are the people that catch the short end of the shaft, because they're the ones that the taxpayers are paying for. They're the public eye of it. They're the ones that everybody knows about. If we can figure out through this litter, through me paring down in the litter, if we can get the counts right, if we know that the numbers that are being counted on return are right, well, then we know that the SSP is not to blame, and we can focus on creating mandates for others to have to report their numbers properly and do better for us. That's where I am. I'm at with it. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. That's all.
Well, I'm going to chime in too, because what I appreciate also about the SSP is that people can come in and look Rashawn in the eye, and he can check on them and perhaps move them towards the MAT program. And I think the familiarity, and clearly he's got a nice, safe personality that they can see, and I really appreciate that part. And I don't know that can happen with other venues where people are getting their syringes, because that window of opportunity is this big when someone's willing to get clean, and it can be missed so easily. So I'm just grateful for all that you're doing for them when they're willing and when they're not. Okay, anything else, you guys? All right, so now it's time for public comment. Do we have anybody out there that would like to comment? Please raise your hand, your virtual hand. Oh, here we have one. Okay, I think Crystal has to let them speak. Let's see. Someone had their hand up and then it's not there anymore. Okay, David Terrazas. Hey, Crystal. Crystal, can you unmute Mr. Terrazas?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm trying, and I'm not having an ability to. I'm wondering if he doesn't have audio capabilities.
Oh yeah, I see that he doesn't. I can't unmute him either.
If he can hear you, can you give him the phone number to call in?
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay.
He's trying to communicate via chat.
Okay.
He's
That's
asking,
fine.
can he ask his question via chat?
Sure.
So someone needs to tell him that.
He can hear us. Okay, so we'll give him a minute to write his message in the chat.
Chair DeJong, would you like to read the question?
Sure.
That way we can have it as part of the
Sure.
recording.
Should do that.
And then
Okay.
I'm happy to answer.
Okay, so what David's written is, thank you. Can you please clarify what county action took place on February 2019? Was that when county first implemented the 1-for-1 exchange?
So I don't have the exact dates in mind, but I know that it was around springtime that we adjusted we formally adjusted our policy and procedures manual to reflect that we were only doing a 1-for-1. By the time I transitioned to overseeing the SSP it was around January or February of 2019. I believe the program was already doing a 1-for-1 model. So they weren't providing any extras. At the time, that's what they were called, any extras or starter packs of syringes.
Was that, does that answer your question, Mr. Terrazas? Okay, I think we're good. All right. Do we have any other public comments? All right. Okay, you guys. Now, okay, there we go. Thank you. Commissioner King, I believe you wanted to talk about the board report and what actions were going to be taken. Remember, you had said earlier in the meeting.
I'm happy to forego my question, but part of it is from the board presentation that happened it was in March, right? Just happened at a recent board meeting. Did we come away with any new instructions or any new mandates?
No new mandates. The only thing that the board did was accept our request to defer the recommendation for consolidated syringe reporting system to May, so we're on schedule for that on May 25th.
All right. Okay. Okay, so if there are no further questions or comments, would someone like to move that we adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. And who would like to second that? Vice Chair Bruder. Okay.
I have a question on the bottom of our agenda here. It says new business action items, and number 2 is a non-virtual tour of the SSP after March 1st.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't see page 2.
Not only do I want to figure out how to do a ride along with the kiosks, I would very much like to come have a tour of the facilities, and if possible, if it's okay with whatever client might be around at the time, to actually see it in action. I think it's really important that all of us commissioners know exactly what goes on. While I appreciate the very forthcoming reports from Mr. Williams and Ms. Herrera, there's nothing like seeing the real thing in action. You know, how do we go about this? I mean, we're opening up. COVID is opening up. The counties or the state's supposedly opening up mid-June. You know, can we still keep this in the, in the headlights? Can we still try and do something like this?
So regarding a visit to the exchange, I have discussed with one of our peer mentors if he could basically simulate an exchange. And I, in discussion with, well, it seemed like a potential violation of participant privacy if someone is to come to the exchange to observe someone, and to do just that, to observe a participant who comes in without that participant's prior knowledge, and potentially coercive, and could set up an environment in the exchange where our participants do not feel like they can fully trust the staff. However, with one of our peer mentors, we could gladly set up times with one commissioner at a time to come to the exchange prior to us opening, or after a shift on a Monday or a Friday, to simulate an exchange, and you could see what questions would be asked, and you could ask based on actually being there and seeing what we have to provide, what might happen in any given scenario. But again, I don't think it sets up a good environment for our participants if we have someone who is there to observe and solely for that purpose. It might seem like a violation of their privacy, and we're dealing with sometimes very tenuous situations as is, and I feel like it would not set our exchange further in developing trust with our participants.
Thank you. That makes sense to me. I can understand somebody who wouldn't feel safe to have some random person there observing, but I would really like to come in before or after and watch the peer do like Okay, sorry you guys, I'm super tapped out right now. Jen, you had a comment?
I do. I think we definitely have considered, how we could potentially have the commission members observe SSP, and we do have a lot of concerns around the privacy piece, but We also feel, as a harm reduction program, it is really important to ensure that the people who are actually utilizing the service are informing the process and informing the program. And, we can think about, we're happy on our end to help facilitate that somehow. Really, the big piece is informed consent, of knowing making sure that the participants are aware of who they're interacting with and for what purpose. So, what we've done in the past, in 2019, is we set up focus groups, and we have some collection of anecdotes from that. But, that could be something that we do. We can help facilitate at some point with the commission, is, some sort of meet and greet with active participants who were able to, sort of fully disclose like what the purpose of the meeting would be, if the commission would be interested in something like that. So, we want to try to be able to meet halfway somewhere.
Thank you for that. I feel that it's really hard for us to study something that we can't see. I do understand the need for the safety and the trusting relationship necessary between the clients and the SSP providers. And in no way would I want to do some kind of subterfuge, be standing there with a mask and gown on pretending to be a nurse or something like that, that kind of silly thing. What is the possibility of, we set a day where one of us, whichever commissioner, is going to be there, and as because I'm sure there are times when there's 3 or 4 people outside waiting for their turn, 3 or 4 clients, whether it be Mr. Williams or Ms. Herrera or whoever goes out and says, hey, we have somebody here from the commission that would like to see an exchange. Does anybody have an issue with that? If there's an issue, we'll send them away right now. Or if somebody, if one of the clients would volunteer, hey, I don't care if they see me picking up stuff, of course, the informed consent, them knowing exactly why we're there. But to me, doing a simulated exchange with a peer counselor from Matt or something like that seems, to me, that would seem fake. It wouldn't seem genuine. It would seem rehearsed. That's why I'm hoping to have some kind of interaction, just see an actual exchange happen, just an off the cuff, the normal thing without it being staged. But I think it's really important, even if we have to do the peer counselor fake one, not fake, but the word I'm trying to find. If we have to do it that way, that's better than nothing. I would really like to see what goes on there and how it goes on. That would really help me understand things. It's been over 14 years since I've been into the place, so I know things have changed. Thanks.
Okay. The next item is topics for future meetings. Welcome new commissioners, which we don't have any right now. But next, I believe one of our commissioners is no longer with us, and I believe Manu is going to.
And then we have another commissioner who had resigned.
Oh, okay.
There are 2 seats open right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to the review of commission election. Okay. So review of commission and election officers in May meeting. All right. So that's going to happen in May. And then presentation of 21-23 county operational plan. That's for next meeting. Okay, great. Okay, now would somebody like to move that we adjourn the meeting?
I move.
All right.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm still learning this Robert's Rules thing, so bless you for having patience with me.
You're doing great, Chair.
At least you call them Robert's rules, not Bob's rules.
I really want to thank the staff. I know I've been on the county end of this. I've been that person who had to sit with a commission. And so I just want you to know that I appreciate what you're doing here and how complicated it is. You're trying to serve a lot of people here.
Right. And it's a really long day when we're going till 8 p.m. So thank you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Peace.
Thank you all.
Thank you.